It started with something small, so small I almost didn't notice it. A laugh that didn't quite reach her eyes. A phone screen tilted just slightly away from me. A pause before she said, "I love you too. My name is Marcus, I'm 41, and I've been married to Evelyn for 12 years. We live in a cozy house in Northern California, the kind with ivy creeping up the side and a backyard big enough for our golden retriever and 2 kids to run wild. I work in IT for a large software firm, and Evelyn's a freelance photographer, which meant she had the flexibility to be with the kids more often while also taking gigs that let her travel here and there. I was proud of her. I admired her talent, the way she could find beauty in everyday things. How she captured emotion in her photos, how she made people feel seen. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but I believed we were strong, that we'd weathered the storms of sleepless nights with newborns, financial hiccups, and the normal disagreements that come with being together for over a decade. But things started shifting about a year ago. At first, it was easy to explain away. Her sudden interest in going out more often with her photography group, late editing sessions that kept her up in her home office well past midnight, and the new lock code on her phone. "Client privacy," she'd said when I raised an eyebrow. And I let it go. Because I trusted her. Because she was Evelyn, my wife, the mother of my children, the woman who once drove 5 hours just to bring me soup when I was stuck at a conference with the flu. But then the intimacy disappeared. She stopped reaching for me in bed. She stopped asking about my day. And the way she looked at me, like I was someone she used to know, gnawed at my soul. I asked her if everything was okay, and she gave me a tired smile, the kind you give to strangers who ask how you're doing when you're falling apart inside. "Just tired," she said. "Work's been a lot." But I knew that wasn't it. I started noticing things. Her perfume lingering when she came home late. Receipts for restaurants I hadn't taken her to. A second wine glass in the sink when I'd been out of town for business. Still, I told myself not to jump to conclusions. That I was being paranoid. That maybe I was just feeling insecure because I'd gained some weight or hadn't been as present as I used to be. I tried harder. I planned date nights. I took time off work. I bought her flowers. She smiled and said thank you. But there was distance in her eyes, like she was always somewhere else, thinking about something, or someone else. One night, when she was asleep, I opened her laptop. I hated myself for it. I felt sick, like I was betraying her by violating her privacy. But I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to know if I was losing my mind, or my marriage. What I found wasn't much at first, just folders of her client work. But in the trash bin was a deleted folder titled J. When I restored it, my heart stopped. Dozens of photos. Some of scenery. Some of hotel rooms. And some of Evelyn, smiling, laughing, laying in bed with a man I'd never seen before. The timestamps told a story. A long one. A consistent one. This wasn't a one-night mistake. This was a relationship. A secret life. And in that moment, everything I thought I knew shattered. The woman I loved, the life we built, the trust I'd never thought to question. It all crumbled around me. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't cry. I just sat in the kitchen staring at those photos, wondering when everything changed, wondering how long she'd been lying to me, wondering what the hell I was supposed to do now. The next morning, Evelyn acted like nothing had happened. She stood in the kitchen in one of my old college t-shirts, sipping coffee and scrolling on her phone like it was just another Thursday. I couldn't look at her the same. I couldn't unsee the way she smiled in those photos, how natural and comfortable she looked with him. More at ease than I'd seen her in years. I sat down across from her and tried to study her face, to find some crack in the facade, some signal that she knew I knew, but there was nothing. Just a calm, controlled version of the woman I'd promised forever to. I couldn't say anything. Not yet. I needed to understand how deep this went, who this man was, and how long she'd been living this double life right under my nose. So I played along. I asked how her editing session went. She smiled and said it had run late. I told her I had meetings most of the day. She kissed me goodbye like everything was normal, and that kiss, dry, practiced, meaningless, made my skin crawl. At work, I could barely focus. I stared at my screen while my mind spun through every memory of the past year, re-examining every excuse, every trip, every odd behavior. Had she been with him when she said she was shooting in Napa? Was he the one texting her late at night when she claimed it was her assistant? And our kids, had they met him? Had he been in our house? I suddenly felt sick. I took an early lunch and drove back home, needing to search deeper before she could cover her tracks. Her desktop was clean, no new files, no obvious signs of contact. But I remembered she used a cloud backup for her phone. I found the app, guessed the password on the third try, our daughter's birthday, and there it was. Her messages. Thousands of them. I scrolled past friends and family until I found a thread with a contact labeled Jared. My chest tightened. The conversation was intimate, familiar, and far worse than I expected. Last night was perfect. I wish I could fall asleep next to you every night. I hate pretending with him. I just want us. He still has no clue. It's honestly too easy. I read messages going back nearly 9 months. She told him she loved him, that she was only staying with me for the kids, that I was a good dad but emotionally boring, that she wished she had met Jared sooner. The words blurred on the screen. I didn't even notice my hands were shaking until I almost dropped the phone. And that wasn't the worst part. Jared had sent her photos too, selfies of them in bed, screenshots of flight confirmations, even a video of her laughing in a hotel room, sitting on his lap while soft jazz played in the background. She looked so free, so alive. And all I could think was, when did I lose her? That night, I couldn't pretend. I barely ate. I barely spoke. She asked if I was okay, and I muttered something about work stress. I went to bed early, staring at the ceiling while her breathing settled into a calm rhythm beside me. How could she sleep so peacefully, knowing what she was doing to me? To our family? The rage started to bubble inside me, but I forced myself to stay still. I needed a plan. I wasn't going to explode and give her the chance to twist the narrative. I wasn't going to let her cry and claim it just happened, or that it didn't mean anything. I needed to control this, to expose the truth the right way. So the next day, I took the most painful step of all. I messaged Jared. I texted him from her phone while she was in the shower, trying to keep it casual so he wouldn't suspect anything. Hey, can you meet up today? Need to talk. A couple of minutes later, he replied. Of course, babe. Where and when? The word babe made me sick to my stomach. I forced myself to stay calm, typed in the name of a coffee shop clear across town, and set the time. He agreed right away. I deleted the messages, took screenshots of their entire conversation, and uploaded everything to a flash drive I kept hidden in the garage. That entire day, I was running on autopilot. My hands were either clenched in fists or trembling. I didn't even know what I was hoping for from meeting this guy. An apology? A confession? Or maybe I just needed to look him in the eye and see the man who had been sleeping with my wife behind my back. At 5:45, I pulled into the parking lot of the cafe and parked where I could see the front entrance. At 5:59, he arrived. Tall, clean-cut, wearing a long coat and smirking while looking at his phone. I recognized him immediately, from the photos, from the memory of her laugh when she was with him instead of me. I stepped out of the car. My heart was pounding, but on the outside, I was ice cold. He looked around, confused, clearly expecting someone else. I walked up to him and asked, "You Jared?" He glanced at me, puzzled. "Yeah. Who's asking?" I smiled, cold and sharp. "I'm Evelyn's husband." His face drained of color. He actually took a step back. I thought he'd try to deny everything, or maybe come up with some excuse. But all he said was, "She told me you guys were separated." I almost laughed. Of course she did. That's what cheaters do. They say whatever they have to. We sat down at a table. I pulled out the flash drive. Everything's on here. Every text, every photo, every sweet little lie. I know it all. And if you ever come near her again, or my kids, you're going to regret it. He mumbled something like, "I didn't know it was like this, but I wasn't listening." I didn't need his guilt. I stood up and said, "Tell her I know. Let her figure out her next move." Then I walked out. That night, our house was quiet. I could hear her texting from the bedroom, probably him, probably trying to smooth things over or spin another story. But I'd already made my decision. It wasn't an emotional impulse. It was a cold, logical conclusion. The woman I loved had betrayed me, repeatedly, and did it comfortably under my roof. That meant she didn't deserve forgiveness. The next morning, I gathered our financial records, booked an appointment with a divorce lawyer, and started laying out a plan. How to protect the kids, the house, and, most importantly, myself. She still didn't know I knew, and that gave me the advantage. But there was one thing left, confronting her. Face to face. No yelling, no drama. Just look her in the eyes and say, "I know," and see how she'd try to lie her way out of that. The next morning felt like walking on glass. She moved through the kitchen like nothing was wrong, humming as she poured coffee, casually mentioning something about a work meeting later that evening. I nodded, pretending I hadn't spent the entire night staring at the ceiling, planning my exit strategy. I had the flash drive in my pocket and a backup of the texts on a secure cloud folder, just in case she tried to deny everything or worse, flip the script on me. I sat across from her at the table, watching her scroll through her phone, wondering if she was texting him right then, maybe telling him how last night didn't go as planned. She looked up and smiled, and I swear to God it took everything in me not to throw the coffee mug against the wall. I told her I wanted to have dinner together that night, just the two of us. She seemed surprised but happy. Like a date? She asked with that same soft smile she used to win me over back in college. I forced a smile and said, "Yeah, just us." I booked the reservation at a quiet Italian place we used to go to on anniversaries, back before she started working late and before my trust became a joke. That evening, she dressed up, full makeup, hair done like it was some kind of celebration. I couldn't tell if she thought this was me trying to fix things or if she was just playing along, keeping her lies neat and tidy. We sat across from each other, sipping wine, ordering pasta, and making small talk. I waited until the dessert menu came, then I leaned in and said quietly, "So, who's Jared?" Her face went blank. Just for a second. Then came the confusion. "Who?" she asked, blinking. I didn't flinch. "Don't do that," I said. "Don't pretend. I know. I've seen the messages. I've seen the pictures. I know where you've been and who you've been with." Her fork clinked against the plate as she set it down. Her lips parted, but no words came out. I kept going. "He thought we were separated. That's what you told him, right? That you and I were done? That I was just some guy you used to love?" She tried to interrupt, to say it wasn't like that, that she could explain. I held up a hand. "Don't. Just listen. I'm not here to fight. I'm not even angry anymore. I just want you to know that I know. And that it's over." Her eyes welled up, and for a second I wondered if it was real or just another performance. She reached across the table, but I pulled my hand back. "I'll be moving out in a week. I've already spoken to a lawyer. You'll get the paperwork soon." She was crying now, mascara running, whispering my name like it meant something, like it could fix what she shattered. But I didn't waver. I paid the bill, walked her to the car, and drove home in silence. That night, I slept in the guest room. The next morning, she tried to act like we could talk, like there was still a chance. But she didn't get it, she never did. This wasn't about one mistake or one night. It was about a choice. Repeated choices. And I was finally choosing myself. The days that followed were a blur of logistics and quiet devastation. I moved through the house like a ghost, boxing up my clothes, my books, little pieces of my life that once felt permanent. Lisa kept trying to talk, to explain, to apologize, to justify, but none of it mattered anymore. Every word felt like static. She had made her choice long before I found the messages. The betrayal wasn't just in the cheating. It was in how calculated it was. How normal she tried to make it all seem. Like I wouldn't notice. Like I wouldn't matter. The hardest part wasn't leaving her. It was walking past the photo frames that still held pictures of our fake smiles. Our wedding. Our vacations. The time we got snowed in and drank wine on the floor with nothing but blankets and old records. All of it tainted now. Every memory repainted in shades of deception. I'd secured a short-term lease on a one-bedroom apartment downtown. Nothing fancy, just enough space to think and breathe. The first night there, I didn't unpack. I sat on the floor with a six-pack and my laptop, staring at the divorce papers I'd drafted with the lawyer. I wasn't sure if I was sad or just numb. My phone buzzed over and over. Messages from Lisa. Some long and rambling, others just her saying please or talk to me. I didn't answer. What was there left to say? She didn't just betray me, she killed the version of me that believed in us. And there's no apology big enough to bring that man back. A week later, she showed up at my door. I didn't even know how she found the place. I opened it and stood there, blocking the entrance. Her eyes were red, her face pale, like she hadn't slept. "Can we talk?" she asked. I hesitated, then stepped aside. We sat in the tiny living room, and for once, she didn't start crying. She just sat there, staring at the floor. "It wasn't just about him," she finally said. I felt invisible. For a long time. I wanted to laugh or scream or throw something. Invisible? I gave her everything. My time, my support, my loyalty. But I stayed quiet. Let her talk. "I'm not saying it was right," she continued. "But it felt easy. With him. Like I didn't have to try so hard to be happy. I looked at her for a long time. Then why not just leave? I asked. If you were so unhappy, why lie? Why keep me around like a safety net while you explored whatever that was with him? She didn't have an answer. Just more silence. And I realized then that she wasn't sorry she cheated. She was sorry she got caught. Sorry she didn't get to control the narrative. I stood up and pointed to the door. You need to go. She didn't fight me this time. Just nodded and walked out. That was the last time I saw her face to face. But the damage she did didn't leave with her. It stayed. In my bones. In the quiet moments when I'd wake up expecting her beside me. In the little things, groceries, playlists, morning routines, that still carried her shadow. I knew healing wouldn't be quick or easy. But I also knew this. I deserved better. And one day, I'd find peace again. Even if I had to crawl toward it. The silence after she left was different this time. It wasn't just absence, it was finality. I didn't feel relief, not yet, but there was a strange stillness that filled the apartment, like the noise of betrayal had finally stopped echoing off the walls. I went back to work, started sleeping normal hours again, but nothing really felt normal. I'd catch myself reaching for my phone to text her about something random, something small, like a funny license plate or a weird coffee flavor I saw at the store. Then remember it didn't matter anymore. She wasn't my person. She was just someone I used to trust, someone I used to love, and now a stranger with memories I couldn't erase. Mutual friends started to reach out, not to take sides, at least most of them, but just to check in. A few told me Lisa had been falling apart, crying at brunch, not showing up to work, posting cryptic quotes about regret. I didn't respond. Let her fall apart. I had to put myself back together. One of the hardest things was facing my own guilt. Not for anything I'd done, but for how blind I'd been. I kept thinking, how long had I been loving someone who was already gone? Was it weeks? Months? Did she ever really love me, or was I just convenient, stable, safe? That's the part that haunted me the most. Not the act of cheating, but the ease with which she'd compartmentalized me. Like I was just a piece of furniture in her life, something that made the room feel complete, but didn't actually matter. I started going to therapy, not because I thought it would fix everything, but because I needed someone to help me untangle the knots in my head. The first session, I sat in that chair for 10 minutes before I could speak. And when I did, all I said was, I don't know who I am without her. It was the truest thing I'd said in weeks. We talked about betrayal, trust, self-worth. Things I hadn't realized I'd lost until I tried to stand on my own again. Slowly, the therapist helped me see that Lisa's actions weren't a reflection of my value. She didn't cheat because I wasn't enough. She cheated because she wasn't enough. For herself, for me, for the kind of honesty love requires. That didn't make it hurt less, but it gave me something solid to stand on. I started journaling, taking long walks, even picked up my guitar again. Things I'd stopped doing when my life was all about us. And little by little, I stopped feeling like a man who'd been destroyed and started feeling like a man who'd survived. Lisa sent me one final message about a month later. No pleading, no explanations. Just, I'm sorry. For everything. I hope you find someone who never makes you doubt yourself. I didn't reply. I didn't delete it either. I let it sit there in my inbox as a reminder. Not of her, but of me. Of the line I drew when I chose myself over the comfort of a broken relationship. And that was the first time I felt proud again. Not because I'd moved on, but because I didn't go back. 3 months passed. Seasons began to change, and so did I. There was something about waking up without the constant weight on my chest that made breathing easier. Like my body finally realized it was allowed to heal. I rearranged the apartment, not just to keep busy, but to reclaim the space. I got rid of the couch we used to curl up on and bought a new one. Not better, just different. Something that didn't hold her shape in the cushions. I took down the framed photo from our anniversary trip to Seattle and replaced it with a print of the Grand Canyon. Wide open, unspoiled. It wasn't about erasing her. It was about making room for myself. One Saturday morning, I ran into an old college friend at a farmer's market. Her name was Jenna, and we hadn't talked in years, but the conversation flowed like no time had passed. She asked how I was doing, and instead of saying fine, I told her the truth. She didn't flinch, didn't pity me, just listened. We grabbed coffee that turned into a walk that turned into a 4-hour conversation. I didn't think of it as a date. I didn't think of her as a rebound. It was just human, real, no expectations. We started texting slowly. then seeing each other once a week. Then twice. It wasn't fast. It wasn't fireworks. But it was steady. Warm. Safe in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. Not the desperate kind of safety that clings, but the kind that lets you breathe deeper. I told her everything early on, about Lisa, the betrayal, how wrecked I felt. I thought it might scare her off, but it didn't. Jenna looked at me and said, "You're not broken. You were just lied to." And damn, that hit me. Because she was right. I wasn't broken. I was bruised. Big difference. I found myself smiling more. Sleeping through the night. Not obsessively checking phones or reading into every silence. It wasn't just Jenna. It was me slowly remembering who I was before everything fell apart. And who I could be after. Lisa popped back into my mind every now and then. I'd see someone with her hair at the grocery store, or hear a song we used to love and feel a twinge of something. Nostalgia, maybe. But not longing. Not regret. Just distance. Like remembering a place you once lived, but no longer miss. There was no hatred. Just quiet acceptance. She had her path. I had mine. And for the first time in a long time, I liked where mine was headed. I ran into Lisa one afternoon at the local coffee shop. It wasn't planned. I didn't know she even came here, but there she was, standing in line, staring at the menu as if she hadn't already memorized it. I felt that strange flutter in my chest, the same one that used to happen when we would meet up after a long day at work. But this time it didn't hurt. It didn't freeze me in place. It was more like an echo, faint and distant. I took a breath, walked up to the counter, and ordered my coffee, pretending she wasn't there. It wasn't avoidance. It was just indifference. She turned, saw me, and for a second, I could see the shock on her face, like she wasn't expecting to ever run into me again. She opened her mouth to say something, but then paused. Her face softened for a moment, and I saw the flicker of guilt, maybe even regret. But I wasn't sure. I didn't need to know. I didn't need her to apologize. I didn't need her to explain anything. I had already let go. I didn't know her anything, and she didn't know me anything either. After a long silence, she finally spoke. "How have you been?" Her voice was hesitant, like she was testing the waters, unsure if it was okay to ask. But I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. No yearning. Just a calm that was still new to me. "I'm good," I said, smiling just slightly. "I'm good." She nodded, almost as if relieved by my response. But then she shifted, her eyes dropping to the ground. "I never meant to hurt you," she whispered. It was quiet, but I heard it. I let it linger in the air between us for a moment before I responded, my voice steady. "I know. It was true. I had spent too long in the trenches of our broken past to hold on to resentment. It had taken me months to get here. To this place where the pain wasn't a daily companion, where I was free to move forward. And in that moment, standing there in the coffee shop, the past felt like nothing more than a shadow, gone but never entirely forgotten. Lisa and I said a few more words, nothing important, nothing heavy. Just the kind of small talk that two people who once shared so much could have. Then she walked away. I didn't watch her leave. I didn't need to. Instead, I sipped my coffee, knowing that the only person whose presence truly mattered now was mine. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough.